Greetings, friends. It's decaf time. It's 5:22 in the afternoon, and I'm workflowing images because we just had our last fairy day of the year, our fairy day event. We had one in our local city back in May. We had one in London, Ontario, Barrie, Ontario, Pembroke, Ontario with John Butler, and our most in Sault Ste. Marie. So our last one was here again. Our second one in our local city. We had 30 sessions booked. So, anyways, we got a system. We the whole thing is systematic. Systematic, is that a word? Systemic? Is it the whole thing? Yeah, it's complex, but we got a system and it works, and they're quite cool. My wife's been proofing all day. I call it proofing because that's what we used to call it in the old days. But you might want to call it the sales presentation. We do those in person. My wife really pushes hard to do them in person. She's not liking the Zoom meetings at all, so she's really pushing for in person. 2 weeks ago, like I said, we were in Sault Ste. Marie. Our sales were very, very strong. We had close to 30 sessions. Drove down on Thursday, shot Friday, Saturday, came home Saturday night. My wife stayed for 2 more days, and she, by the time she left, all her sessions were closed. Like, she had proofed everybody. She had the sales presentations were done. So she was sending me orders on Monday as they were coming through. She'd take a picture with a cell phone and send it to me, and I would start working on them right away. Same thing now. So my wife's been doing, all our clients come into the studio, and as they come in, she sets up the order and I get working on it. We like to be organized. We don't like to procrastinate. So I'm having a decaf and I'm staying here late, a little bit late. I'm going to have supper here in a minute, which I often do if I got a busy schedule. But I have one more order to do. I've been working on orders for the better part of the day, and I thought, you know what? I have this idea. I'm just going to workflow the order while I'm just going to talk with you. I'm not going to workflow the order and really explain a whole lot of the workflow because I have a lot of those videos already for you. So, you can kind of maybe multitask. Listen to me ramble on while I workflow. It's something I can do. I don't know about you guys. Let me know what you think. Can you ramble on? Can you multitask while you're workflowing? I can. And it's funny the way certain things are multitaskable and certain things are not. Like when I'm working on, say, strategies or copywriting or anything, writing out an email and that kind of stuff, I can't multitask. But when I'm workflowing, easy. I can listen to a podcast and I can talk to you guys. So it's easy for me to multitask. It's kind of like when you're driving. You ever go on a trip and you have somebody with you and you're talking, and it makes the trip go by fast. So that and a bit of coffee is going to make life a whole lot better. I love my coffee. So, but anyways, I had this idea. I'm going to just ramble on and talk about stuff. I made a few notes, and I'm going to share it with you. Sound good? All right. I hope that microphone's turned up enough. So I have my templates here. I'm not going to explain that. You can watch the official workflow video, but if you go under window, you can see I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images, and I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm going to size them down to 8 by 10, and I'm not going to explain a lot of other stuff because I'm going to ramble on about random stuff. So the first thing I want to talk about is, well, it's November the 8th. So that means, I think in the States, don't you guys have, Veterans Day? So in Canada, November 11th is Memorial Day, Remembrance Day. Everybody wears poppies, and it's a big event, and it's to commemorate, all our veterans in World War I, World War II, et cetera, et cetera. So that's coming up now. I only bring that up to talk about the movie All's Quiet on the Western Front. That's a good movie. It's subtitled. It was made in Germany, but it's an excellent movie. I highly recommend it. It's a remake. It's a classic story, you know, from whenever the original came out a million years ago. But highly recommend it. So that's, what are we, November 8th. So in 3 more days, it's going to be the 11th. And the 11th of the 11th. So 11/11. Something about 11/11 fascinates me. When I was younger and I had a dark room back in the 80s throughout the 90s, I always, you know, you work in the dark room and you have a lot of time watching stuff rinse and wash, especially when you're doing film. You can't really abandon it. So I had a bunch of books and I had an old guitar, and I used to run scales on my guitar or read these books. And I had light, fun, easy reading books like one book on astrology and one book on numerology. I've kind of always been fascinated with those topics. I don't know if I buy into them, but numerology still fascinates me. I don't know. It sounds a little hokey, I know, but I notice certain numbers show up in my life. How about you? Numbers 11/11. True story. I wake up. No, I don't wake up at 11 at night, but I'll glance over and it'll be 11/11. That happens a lot. So whether or not it means anything, I don't know. I'm just rambling. So, but it's a good movie. All's Quiet on the Western Front. I watched, because Halloween was only a week ago, I watched a video by Randall Carlson. He's an interesting dude, that guy. I'll put the replay. It's about an hour long. Watch his other videos too. You'll see what I mean. He's an interesting character. I believe there's a new Netflix special coming out with him and the other guy. They talk about ancient civilizations. They have some really interesting theories and discussions. But anyways, he's got a thing on here. I'll just find it for you here. Boom, boom. The Mysterious Origins of Halloween. Which is from the YouTube channel called After School. Down below. It's an excellent channel, by the way. Look at that. I got 2.43 million viewers. So I was mostly listening to it a couple of weeks ago while I was work flowing. And I found it quite fascinating. I like that stuff. You know, it's a little bit controversial. Well, this one's not, but Randall Carlson. If you can't, go to his website, his YouTube channel, or there's another one on the numbers. Something about numbers, like math. It's quite fascinating. You'll see what I mean if you find it. Anyways. Oh, while I'm here, check this out. Look, I was just listening to a podcast about an hour ago. AnswerThePublic.com is a website somebody mentioned. So you go in there, you do some research direct from the minds of your customers. So it sounded fascinating. I haven't checked it out yet, but I did bookmark it. I'll go check it out later. I thought I'd share that with you. Also, I'll share this with you. I was curious a couple of weeks ago. Magenta Photo was they have a store in a big mall north of Toronto, in the was it the Vaughan Mill Mall? Anyways, around there, big giant mall, and it's a tiny studio, but they have a storefront. And I don't know if they're in that mall anymore, but they do have several locations in and around Toronto and a bunch in Quebec, and it's a fascinating thing. And I remember seeing them there like 10, 15 years ago, and then I was like, are they still around? So I went and checked them out, and they're still around. They got a very small studio, and you can see the kind of work they're doing. So it's kind of cool to see that. If you want inspiration, that's why I go to places like that, and I like to see what other photographers are marketing and what they're doing. I get some ideas. They're marketing really nice lighting, very simple lighting. You can obviously, it's a big softbox. The studio was probably no more than 8 feet. I guarantee you it's no more than 8 feet. If you hear voices, by the way, it's my neighbor next door. They're a cat adoption agency. They get a little loud because they're very passionate about cats. Anyways, it's called magentaphoto.com. Go check it out. All right, back to work and rambling. So, meanderings. So, those who know me know that I'm a big believer of Toastmasters. So I went to a Toastmasters meeting last night. My original club, the first time I ever went to Toastmasters, back in January of 1991, I was scared, petrified, scared shitless. And they used to meet in Sudbury, my city, once every 2 weeks, and it was the only club. It was kind of cool, you know. People would dress up a little more than they do nowadays. They're so casual nowadays. And it was always a big group, 25 to 35 people. Lots of professionals, a bunch of retired folks too, but a lot of people from different backdrops. And everybody there with the same common purpose, to become a better communicator. So that was something I always wanted to do. So. And I joined Toastmasters back then, scared to death. And back then there was you had what's called a CTM, your Competent Toastmaster. And it was a manual. You get a manual when you joined. They mailed you a manual. And in the manual were 10 speeches with 10 sort of like objectives. The first speech was what's called your icebreaker. So that was where you got to introduce yourself to the club, which is an easy speech to do because you're talking about yourself. So I remember doing that and going up and introducing my icebreaker and being scared to death. But I wanted to become an effective communicator. So I said, well, I'm going to do this manual. In my mind, I was thinking, I'm going to finish this manual. And then I'm going to quit. I'm going to do it in under a year. That was where my mind was at. So it turns out it took me 2 years to finish that manual. And I stuck around for 11 years total. Ended up being the president of the club and a few other executive roles. Because I was really enjoying it. After about 6-7 months, I was like, I freaking love this, man. This is amazing. So I'm downsizing this image. Oh, I already downsized it, sorry. And so I quit around the early 2000s. My daughter was 7 or 8, so I got bored. And then around 2014, my daughter came out to me and said, Dad, I want to go to Toastmasters. She was about 18, 19 at the time. I said, oh, cool. I said, well, I'll pay, because it's, I'm going to pay for that. It's for my daughter. I'll pay for it. And I asked her, I said, do you want me to join you? And she said, oh, yeah, you can join. I didn't want to assume she wanted me to join. But so I went. And so I think it was literally the next day I was at Starbucks. And it was quite busy. I don't know if I was with my daughter or not. I think she might have been working there. She was a barista there at one time. And there was a table there, and it looked like the lady was leaving. So I went up and I said, excuse me, are you leaving? This table becoming vacant? And I noticed on the table were some Toastmasters materials. And she said, yeah, I'm leaving. I said, well, oh, look, Toastmasters. I said, you're a member of Toastmasters. My daughter and I are rejoining. I used to be a member in the Monday night club. And she said, well, yeah, I'm in the Thursday night club, which I didn't even know existed. So that chance meeting made us aware of the Thursday night club, which were heavily slanted towards women. It was a bunch of women who started it, and for some reason it was heavily dominated with women. So I said, oh, that's cool, I'll go. And my daughter and I went for several years. We had a blast. So then COVID hit, of course. And only a couple of weeks ago, the Toastmasters meeting, I'm going to go back to early COVID. Talked about that. So Toastmasters were meeting on Zoom, and I did Zoom for a couple of months, and I hated it. I go to AA meetings. So much for anonymity. And they were doing Zoom meetings too, and I hated those. Hated Zoom. To me, it was like that movie. Do you know what movie that's from? Okay, look at this one here. George Lucas's first big production, THX 1138. Excellent movie. Anyways, it's a sci-fi movie, and just being on Zoom meetings for either AA or Toastmasters was just way too bizarre. I didn't agree with the lockdowns. I hate masks, and I didn't agree with being forced to take a jab, all of that stuff. And so, and my business was locked down, so I couldn't make any money. So all that stuff drove me nuts. Anyways, so I didn't go to any more Zoom meetings because it was not good for me. So I decided to just not bother. Although I did start a clandestine AA meeting with a buddy of mine in my studio a couple months into COVID. And we locked down the next year, so we weren't supposed to be meeting, but I said, screw it. I'm meeting anyways. I don't care. Nobody got sick. Nobody died. But to me, you see, it's more important for mental health that I do that. And there was a core group of 8 to 10 of us who were meeting, and they all agreed it was the best thing ever. Absolutely the best thing ever. So that's my sort of Toastmasters segue into AA, segue into Zoom meetings for Toastmasters. And they started meeting again. What are we? November? So sometime in October, maybe September. The Thursday night club and the Monday night club started meeting again, and I started going back to the Monday night club, which was last night. I highly recommend Toastmasters. Now I gotta say, I'm not enjoying it because it's a hybrid meeting. So they bring in a TV screen and they have a webcam with a microphone, and so people join in via Zoom, and there are people in person. There's not nearly as many people as there used to be, and I don't know. It's just we're living in weird times. Everybody's so scared. It's just like, some people show up with their masks, and I'm like, oh, come on, man. So I'm not enjoying it, but it is what it is. So, but I do highly recommend learning to speak confidently, learning to run meetings, all of that stuff. Of course, learning lighting. I mean, look at that image. Tina was just telling me, Tina's my wife, was just telling me that one of the clients who came in today, and many of them say this, she was just going on about it was the best experience ever, over and over and over again with these fairy sessions. We hear that from clients, and over and over and over again. No matter where we go, no matter what city we go to, no matter what, we get the same general reaction, and we get the same bookings, we sell out, and we get roughly the same sales, same results. But the experience, I think the experience is really, really key. So anyways, so today's Tuesday, right? So on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we shot 30 fairies over 3 days. We kind of spread it out. If it's in our own city, we can do that. And again, somebody was talking about what an amazing experience it was, and I said, I really enjoy photographing kids, and it's child portraiture evolved. And I said, I'm not sure it's always going to be relevant, so I never want to assume or take it for granted, because who knows? Trends come and go, right? Trends come and go. I feel reasonably confident unless something major changes, like some like event changes, cultural trends, and people do not want or need fairy portraits or portraits of their kids anymore. And I have a few ideas where that might happen. I just can't otherwise see it going away. Because this is not about the adults. This is about the kids. But the adults, especially the moms and the grandmoms, enjoy it immensely. It's crazy. I have moms that are crying while I'm photographing their kids. And the kids, for the most part, respond to me very consistent over and over and over and over again. There's little personality quirks and, you know, differences, and sometimes in their moods and their age, but overall I get great results. And the moms are watching me while I'm creating these images in the studio. And I always tell them, and you guys know this, I always tell them, I say, look, you're allowed to sit and watch, but don't repeat anything I say, and don't coach them, and don't give them any instructions. This is really, really important, especially if the kids is shy. And I tell the moms, I say, look, and the moms and dads and the grandmoms, I say, look, if your child is shy, especially if they're shy, they don't trust me. They don't know me. So I have to gain their trust. And you can't help that. As a matter of fact, especially if they're younger, the more the parents try, the more it's going to backfire. So I tell them that. I say, look, you know, you got to wait it out. Let me do my job. And it works. It's freaking amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah. So if you're doing fairies, you gotta develop that ability to work with kids and be patient and just kind of sort of understand them and know how to communicate with them. You know, and this plays out in many ways. And when we were first doing these fairy portraits, I was just winging it. I was making shit up as I was going along. I didn't know what was going to work. I didn't know what kind of poses. I had a rough idea, but I don't like, if there's a pose that's really awkward and it's going to make the kid uncomfortable, I'm not going to do it unless it's really, really good and they're going to buy a wall portrait. If it's really, really good pose and they're guaranteed to buy a wall portrait, but the kid's going to suffer trauma, okay, I'm doing it. No, I don't see that being a thing, though. So most of the poses are, I follow a flow, and I talk about that in the other videos. So, and for the most part, 95% or more, my posing technique is the same. Over the years, I've not really changed much. I'm looking like, oh, what can I do? What can I add? I mean, is there anything I can add? Is there, there's things we added to the experience in the last couple of years. Like I've added a fairy village. I have a couple fairy houses with a little treasure box, and there's lights inside the village. And I say to the girls, there's a fairy that lives there, and when we're done, she might leave you a gift. And you can have a pack of treats. We have a big jar. It's all lit up with these light bulbs inside. I ask the mom for permission first, and I say, look, when we're done, you can have a treat. You can pick out a toy, and maybe there'll be a gift from the fairy. And they're all like, whoa, there's a fairy that lives there? I'm like, yeah, we don't know her name. She's very shy. But as soon as we're done, you go check that box, and she gets a gift, and it's a fairy gem, which I buy at Michael's. Shh, don't tell them. There is a Santa Claus. So anyways, yeah. So the poses are pretty consistent over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah, I'm almost done. So I'm actually going a little slower, but usually when I'm working these images, I'm firing through them very, very fast. So I'm just looking at my notes. I made some notes. I wanted to share some of these thoughts with you. Some of these meanderings. I think I got everything done that I wanted to talk about. Sometimes I write stuff and I don't know the hell. What does that mean? Multitasking 40%. I have no idea. You ever watch So on the topic of you watching me workflow, even though I'm not explaining what I'm doing, do you ever, so I remember back in the early days of digital, specifically 2000 when I first went digital, that year going to a few conferences, and to this day, if a photographer is going to show the workflow, I'm like, yeah, cool, I want to see what they're doing. I don't use Lightroom. I know a lot of photographers use Lightroom, but I do like to watch what they're doing regardless. If I had a compelling reason to use Lightroom, I would, but a lot of them use Photoshop. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's called Photoshop. Yeah, that's it. And but I like watching other photographers do what they do, and because it gives me inspiration, right? And you kind of like you pick up little tips and tricks here and there. Let me show you something. So here's horizontal. Say that's horizontal. These are my textures, my layers, and this is vertical. They're sized to 8 by 10. I know it says 12 by 18. I don't think that's the size. So that's a misnomer. So I just grab these, they're all highlighted. I don't use the wings, I just grab all this and I pop it in there. And there it is. It's a horizontal. I just drag it over. And if I need the ripple, okay, I'll use the ripple. Since you're asking. Oh, Control Z. Let's get that out of there. Let's go just to the ripple. I'm going to bring it down here. So I'm going to bring it on her fingers like as if her fingers touched the pond and created a ripple. So November 8th, our season is winding down. We had a really good year. Even though we were only here from May, we were in Costa Rica last winter, and we're going back the end of December. We didn't buy a return ticket, so we don't know how long we're going to be there for. So if you want to see my site, if you're curious, go to CostaRicaPhotographer.net. Well, look at this. Did I not screw this up or not? Jeez. I made a boo-boo. Okay, I'm going to move this back. Ripple. Yeah, so I feel very blessed, very fortunate to be able to go to Costa Rica. I do worry, you know, I think, you know, they're going to ban all fossil fuels and flights, and the travel industry is going to be gone, and I won't be able to go there anymore. So I don't know if those worries are irrational or not. I do think there's a globalist movement going on. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Whether I don't think they're going to succeed, but they're going to try. You can call me a conspiracy theorist all you want, because it's not going to stick. It's pretty obvious. I mean, you don't have to go far to see Davos and Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. Anyways, I don't want to get political, so I want to keep it focused on success and workflow and general ramblings. I'm probably going to do more videos like this. Again, this was just a random idea that popped into my head a few weeks ago. I said, oh, next time I do a fairy day event and I'm just workflowing images for like 2 days straight, let's just, while you're workflowing, you know, I could be listening to a podcast or I can talk. I do have to tell you, let me show you. Joe Polish, okay? Go check him out. Some really good marketing stuff on there. I've been listening to those today. And Brett Wilson's the current one. Joe Polish, I've known of him since the 90s. Now I'm a bit of a marketing info junkie, you might say. I latched on to marketing 1997, 98 was the first time I found Dan Kennedy. And around the same time, Joe Polish came on the scene. Joe Polish was a carpet cleaner, and he found these really cool carpet cleaning marketing and it worked out so well for him. He started a convention, and it sold out. He had like a whole shitload of people show up, and so he started doing that. Now he's got this thing called the Genius Network. He's got a free book too. It's pretty good. I downloaded it. Well, anyways, he's got this coaching that's $20,000 a year called the Genius Network. He's got some really good interviews and good marketing stuff. So I was listening to that. You know, I don't want to listen to music. I listen to music when I go jogging. I want to hone my marketing skills always, constantly. So there we go. So there. Hope you enjoyed this. If you have any thoughts, feedback, let me know. I'm doing these. I'm thinking, should I put them on YouTube? No, I'm going to put them only in my Fairy Masters program. So I think if you're watching it and you're not in the Fairy Masters program, it's because I put it on YouTube. If otherwise, if you're in the Fairy Masters program, thank you. I hope you're enjoying it, and I'm open to all your ideas. It's an exciting new concept. It's at fairymasters.com, obviously, and so I explain the concept behind it in 5 different areas: lighting, posing, marketing, and management. Did I say 5? Yeah, 5. Yeah, lighting, posing. These are all important areas: lighting, posing, marketing and management, Photoshop, and money mindset. Yeah, 5. There you go. And so I've got these 5 categories of which I think is important, because there's a complex. It's very complex. These fairy days are very complex, but for us they're not, because we've been doing them for so many years. We just fire them up and boom, away we go. I do stress out a little bit. I do worry a bit, because I'm like, okay, we're going out of town. We got 29 fairies booked. I mean, don't forget anything, Rob. Don't forget anything. And make sure the cars are going to get us there, and blah, 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 blah. All that stuff. So, all right, guys, I'm out of here. We will talk later.